Great, thank you so much. It's great to be here today and let you all know a little bit more about HVIP and the current status of the project. So HVIP opened for this year's round of funding in March with a historic level of funding across various vehicle types. And we are still open for business across the board. I'll put the link in the chat where we update available funding every business day. So there is a lot of complexity in HVIP. We can probably go to the next slide. Well, I'll start with a little bit of history. So the program's been around for over 10 years. It's really well known and hopefully has helped a lot of you transition your fleets. If not, we're here to help, and you've come to the right spot. It's funded over 9,000 vehicles, over 1,500 participating fleets, about a 20% average cost savings over the typical vehicle cost. And there's a vehicle catalog, which I believe is on the next slide, that shows you exactly what vehicles are available to be funded and the incentive amount for each, as well as lets you connect with a dealer directly so that the dealer will handle the paperwork process to get your voucher requested and moving forward in our processes. So the paperwork burden on the purchaser is really easy. It's designed to be streamlined, and you see the discount immediately at the point of sale. Next slide. This graphic provides a workflow of the steps that you'll go through, but as I just said, you start with just finding a dealer and vehicle that you want to purchase from our catalog, and the HVIP incentive will be right there on the purchase order in the beginning. Next slide. There is a lot of complexity, as I mentioned earlier, in HVIP this year. There are many different set-asides for specific vehicles. Class A tractors performing drayage, for transit vehicles, for public school buses, and the Innovative Small E-Fleets program, the carve-out specifically for small fleets to allow some innovative financing options that are different than standard HVIP, which in standard HVIP, there's requirement if it's a lease of having a 3 years or longer, and several other requirements that aren't as flexible as we're able to do in ISEF. And so while ISEF, the public school bus set-aside, and the drayage set-aside are closed, they've been fully subscribed, we still have over 40 million of standard HVIP funds available, and any vehicle type can be funded out of those dollars. So HVIP is still open for business across the board, and the link I put in the chat is to our funding page, which shows, as I mentioned, daily updates on funding that is available. And we will continue to be updating that throughout the remainder of the year until presumably next year's funds are added, or if we do close, that'll be messaged as well. Next slide. HVIP, in addition to providing voucher funds, also has a suite of technical assistance, much of which you've probably been talking about today, fleet engagement work that we do, and under the HVIP umbrella, as well as interactive online tools such as the Funding Finder that lets you explore funding options beyond HVIP across California from public partners for vehicles and infrastructure, as well as a map that lets you see the data. Every month, we update voucher requests and redemptions so you can see where the funding is impacting your community, as well as planning tools for a variety of vocations for infrastructure deployment and fleet transition planning that are also available on the HVIP website. Next slide. I'm going to talk a little bit about the companion project, which is the companion project to HVIP, which is called EnergIIZE, the Energy Infrastructure Incentives for Zero-Emission Commercial Vehicles. And while HVIP is the on-road truck and bus project funded and managed by CALSTART on behalf of the Air Resources Board, the infrastructure companion is managed also by CalSTART on behalf of the California Energy Commission. So it's a brand new program that opened this past year, currently has 50 million available. And the goal of this project is to accelerate deployment of the infrastructure needed to meet medium and heavy duty demand for battery electric and hydrogen vehicles. So it's very exciting. And the next slide here will show you some more details about about the different lanes. So there are different funding lanes that have their openings throughout the year. And you can go to the EnergIIZE website and see which lane meets your needs, including if you already have a purchase order, if you are in a disadvantaged community, or other specifics about your project specifically. Next slide. Somebody mentioned HVIP being first come, first serve. It still is in some of the funding types within HVIP, but EnergIIZE has been designed to be a scored mechanism. So this slide provides a little bit more detail about how that competitive scoring happens. And we are also working between EnergIIZE and HVIP to sync up the applications and articulate the full incentive journey to participants so that you know where your infrastructure and your vehicles are coming from. Next slide.